Today we are talking about food, and a great meal is one of the peak experiences of life. Yet many people are saying that we have a problematic relationship with food in our culture. There seem to be so many pitfalls around food that we can fall into. If we view food as comfort, then we of course run the risk of overeating and of obesity. Nearly half of UK adults have been overeating during lockdown. Apparently, half of us have been stockpiling on pasta and chocolate. Guilty. But another danger of food is that we kind of see it as threat, and then there can be all this anxiety around food and eating disorders and so on. There is the food as fuel movement, in which we are encouraged to see eating as purely nutritional exercise. And at its worst, this leads to sort of slavish calorie counting. Do you know, the dieting industry in the UK is worth £2 billion a year. And then there are other big problems around food in our culture. Food is the cause of severe environmental degradation. The amount of food waste is eye-watering. And of course, food is an indication of deep inequality in our culture. Over the last 3 months, demand for food banks across the UK has doubled. There was one rare bit of good news last week with the Man United player Marcus Rashford. As you probably saw, he led a campaign which caused a government U-turn in that government have now set aside £120 million to provide free meals throughout the summer holiday for those vulnerable children that would normally get free school meals. What a legend, even though he's a Man United player. Well, it feels like this is a good time to take stock and to do some real thinking about our own relationship with food. And today, I want to look at how Jesus saw food. And this talk is part of the Jesus Lifestyle series. If you've missed any of the other talks, they're all on our YouTube channel. But eating with others was an absolutely core part of Jesus's life. And there are countless stories of him eating in all sorts of settings, at weddings and festivals and picnics, on mountainsides and on the beach and on the roadside, with tax collectors, the super rich, the morally dubious. What can we learn from Jesus's relationship with food that will help us to kind of rethink our own relationship with food? Well, firstly, Jesus saw food as a gift. A meal orientates your heart towards thanksgiving. And Jesus didn't just view food as something that we have earned or even as something that we have a right to. At the start of every meal, Jesus would take the bread, which is the staple of the Middle Eastern diet, and give thanks to God before he broke it. His attitude was that the wheat for the bread, the vegetables and the fruit, the meat that they ate, all of it was a gift from God, who sends the sun and the rains, who creates the ideal conditions for life to thrive. And you get this sense with Jesus that there was never any anxiety around food. He said, do not worry about what you eat. And look at the birds of the air. Your Father feeds them, and how much more valuable are you? For Jesus, eating was a daily reminder of God's ongoing goodness to us. And many of us work hard to provide for our family. But when we eat, we are reminded that there is one who never stops working to provide for our every need. Just imagine if you treated every delicious taste as a good gift from a generous God. I mean, it would have an enormous impact on your mental health. I read that the part of your brain that with which you experience fear cannot operate at the same time as the part of your brain with which you experience gratitude. And whenever you are thankful, it's impossible to, at the very same moment, be fearful. So imagine what it would be is if 3 times a day, plus snacks, you were overcome with thankfulness to God. One of the names that is given to the special meal that Jesus instituted is the Eucharist, and it literally means the thanksgiving. For Jesus, food was a gift. Secondly, for Jesus, food was community. A meal is never simply an exercise in calorie intake. It meets our deepest needs for connection with other people and with God. A while ago, 50 top chefs were asked to name their favourite meal, and it was a project called the Last Supper Project, and this photographer took photos of all the chefs as they chose their meals. But what was interesting about the exercise was they didn't just choose a menu. Each of them also spoke about the location where they want to eat the meal, but also about the people that they want to be there. A meal is far more than food. It's an event. Last week, one of our groups at church, they had a meal together. One of the ladies in the group made this delicious, massive dish, but then she drove it around to each person's home. Some of these people were on their own, and they ate this meal together on Zoom. And I love that. I thought, wow, what a creative way of creating this meal event during lockdown. Jesus regularly ate with those who were normally excluded from society. I'm going to read Luke chapter 5. Luke chapter 5, 27. After this, Jesus went out and saw a tax collector by the name of Levi sitting at his tax booth. "Follow me," Jesus said to him, and Levi got up, left everything and followed him. And then Levi held a great banquet for Jesus at his house, and a large crowd of tax collectors and others were eating with them. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, who belonged to the sect, complained to his disciples, "Why do you eat and drink with the tax collectors and sinners?" Jesus answered them, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, it is the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but to call sinners to repentance." Now it was occasions like this that did enormous damage to Jesus' reputation. There was this little ditty that went around. It was an insult that people who were opposed to Jesus used against him. And it went like this: a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of sinners. No Jewish rabbi in their right mind will be seen dead at one of these parties hosted by a tax collector. Eating with tax collectors was a big no-no because these Jews had sold out. They had taken employment with the Roman Empire, and they were seen as traitors making a quick buck off the backs of the poor. Adam Gopnik, the New York Times columnist, he writes, Jesus ate what he liked, where he liked, with whom he liked, at a table open to all. And Jesus goes to tables that are exclusive tables, and he makes them inclusive. He ate with those who no one else would associate with. Now, this is pretty challenging because we tend to associate with our own, keep to our own cliques. And social media can create this toxic environment of vitriol. We share and we shame that which is most despicable to us. But Jesus never shamed the despicable in the way that we do. Instead, he ate with them. If Jesus were here today, of course he would eat with the homeless, with the hardened alcoholics. But he would also eat with the hypocritical politicians, with the super rich elites. He would eat with the anarchists and the white supremacists. He would even eat with estate agents. Jesus believed to his core that every person was welcome at the table, no matter who they'd done, no matter who they were or what they had done. Because for Jesus, the meal table was a sacred, powerful place in which people sat together as equals, in which stories were told, in which identity was formed, and in which deep transformation could take place. I love the story of Jesus eating with another tax collector, the chief of tax collectors, Zacchaeus, short man. And after just one meal with Jesus, Zacchaeus goes through this incredible transformation. He gives half of his wealth away to the poor. He repays back all of those he has cheated. I believe we've lost the ability to see meals as holy events in which God can bring transformation to lives. Do you know, 60 years ago, the average dinner time was 90 minutes long. Today, it's just 12 minutes. We live in incessant hurry, and it has completely impeded our ability to share table fellowship with one another. Leonard Sweet said this: if we were to make the table the most sacred object of furniture in every home, in every church, and in every community, our faith would quickly regain its power, and our world would quickly become a better place.